Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I watched a little bit of the dev stream. There's a couple of things over there I want to go over. It's kind of a little bit of a damage control from the dev team over on Twitch and YouTube. We're gonna be watching it over on YouTube, but I'm I'm giggling at it a little bit because how could you not know? In all honesty, anyways, today's gonna be a little bit different. I do have the game loaded up in the background. You can probably hear the audio as I click things and get things kind of rolling up into it. But a couple of people I feel like didn't watch the video all the way through, so I corrected a couple of people that were watching it around the time. I made a Harry Potter joke, which I just replied to somebody. By the way, congratulations, Clone Guy, for reaching that goal. Dude, I was there whenever it happened, man. Holy. Congrats, dude. Get situated, get what you need done, and hunker down, because it's going to be quite the pain. Anyways, I want to listen to a couple of things that they have to say, and then I'm going to be, pausing and talking over them a little bit from the dev stream. I believe that this conversation went on for about 10 minutes. I don't want to take the whole 10 minutes to be able to go over it.
Hello, everybody. Now,
Kind of
hopefully,
an
my
introduction.
professional streamerism is working here, and you can actually hear me. And when
I can
they
hear
say
you.
hi,
So, I'm going to be honest, I hate watching the dev streams because to me it's like it's watching a ton of very inexperienced people go over things in my eyes a lot of the times from a lot of the T Kane streams that would come up or some of the others. I felt like there was a large lack of professionalism in some of them. There was a lot of choice words, keywords that they would use to kind of progress things and go on from there.
my happy guests can say hi too, and hopefully, stream can hear.
Yep, everything's good on stream. How's it going, guys?
Hey,
Happy to be here.
Howdy, everybody.
Tank, if you were watching this, Ozark, man, remove your background. Show off your guitar.
So yes, extra people today, or person. We have Mr. Zotz here for a sort of guest appearance. I know.
So we got the creative director, creative producer, and then the community manager. However, I don't recognize KB. Something tells me she's pretty new, or she's been here a minute. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that community liaisons are kind of like a thing of the past. From the last I heard, they're kind of a thing of the past now, so I could be completely wrong.
Time is of essence here because you have a lot of meetings about the upcoming holiday period, yes?
Indeed, we're stuffing stockings like crazy, getting ready for the holiday period.
It's still November. Don't.
Oh, I made new stockings last year that were tanks themed. It was glorious.
So
that's not why
cool.
we're here today.
Gonna jump up a little bit ahead.
Or on Discord.
There was something.
Okay. How did it come
My father's Mr. Zot.
Message? So, Mr. Zotz, let's talk vigilante. How did it come
My
about?
father's Mr. Zot's. Well, yeah. So let's talk about autocannons and stuff in particular, right? We knew that was a cool new thing that we wanted to bring into the game. It's a really awesome and interesting dynamic, like we did with double barrels last year, right? And we've already seen that with the first Weasel, and then bringing in the Black Friday tanks, which we already had in the queue, well ahead of time, so we can get these in.
Okay, so double barrel tanks. Yes, those. I'm just gonna say it. Double barrel tanks. They have double barrels, and over on here on console, our double barrels are actually a little bit messed up. For instance, on PC, if you fire your right one as the left one is reloading, it resets both reloads. So you'll lose out on that 5 seconds of reloading that you did. But over here in console, if you're 5 seconds in and you fire, you don't cancel that reload. So we have kind of a little bit of a missing mechanic whenever it comes down to the double barrel tanks. But autocannons, I'm sorry, they don't belong in World War II at all. I was chatting with a couple of guys, Dino, for instance, over inside my Discord, and he was saying that the Marauder, or the whatever it's called, I'll find it real fast. I could be completely wrong about this, but I believe it's the Weasel Mark 1 over in Cold War, and people are calling this toxic because it can clip out an entire tank in a matter of like a couple of seconds, from what Dino was telling me. Anyways, we're going to get back on track.
And test it. I want to talk in particular about when we're designing tanks and thinking about all the different pieces of the tank that go into a design, right? There's the three pieces that I always talk about with the designers. There's the There's the realism of it, how historically accurate and things we want to be with the tank. Then there's the gamism of it, right? How it's going.
Okay, historically accurate. Whenever it comes down to it, most SPAAs, self-propelled anti-air guns, they never actually were used against tanks. They were specifically meant to be like mobile platforms that were kind of like further in the back lines, never really meant to be in the front line. They did play more of a support role, and they were never made for armor on armor, like tank on tank combat. They were not designed for that because they were designed for anti-aircraft. So it makes absolutely no sense to me why we have the Vigilant, which is an anti-aircraft gun, in a tank game. The game is specifically called World of Tanks.
To play in balance with the game, and then there's the Hollywoodism of it, like how cool it is when you get those cool bird sounds or the explosions and things that happen with the game in any part of the game. So
Hollywoodism. If I want Hollywood, I'll go to a movie theater.
So I want to talk in particular about the Vigilante, because we've really been monitoring your feedback.
Or I'll buy the Fury.
Regarding it, and we want to address your concerns directly. And it's clear that the tank sparked a lot of strong reactions, with many of you expressing either frustration or love for it and its impact on gameplay. All right. Either way, we're getting a lot of chatter about it. So I wanted to kind of take you on a story as to like the original reasons for the design, and then talk about like further steps from there. So the original reasons of the design, right? When you think about these tanks and how they were used in roles in actual battlefields, they were not first line tanks. They're kind of secondary support tanks, shooting things down. And we started building these into that kind of realism of it.
I hate to stop and interrupt, but the fact is that since the idea came to them and they decided to go with it and then put into World War II specifically, I don't mind if you guys experiment in Cold War, but World War II, we kind of have this split player base, which I do want to make a video on. And I'll be putting some time into the split player base discussion that's actually going around right now.
A case in point was some of these have overheat mechanisms because those barrels would overheat and you had to manage that versus
Ours don't.
Vigilante, which is a clip system, right? Also, things on, and then in terms of gamism and style and scope of things, when we think of classes, lights, mediums, heavies, things like that, and how the Vigilante, where it felt in its class in terms of, say, speed and speed distances, right? So there were kind of realisms of those things that we were working in playtesting with the assumptions on how we were playing it and how our playtesters were playing it.
So speaking of playtesters, let me check my Discord real fast. I gotta make sure I have nothing up there that's incriminating for some people because I'm getting a little bit of leaks. So I'm gonna scroll a mile down where I have the World of Tanks Discord. Need to find it first. Alright, it took me a minute to find everything that I needed to find, but I found it. It took a moment. Let's go ahead and finish this up.
And how it would work in game.
And then we'll move over to the Discord side of things.
Game versus when the Maritza wrote in gamism, and how many are, first of all, how many get put into the game at once because everybody's excited about playing the games. And we see this pretty much with every launch when we have cool new tanks. There's lots of tanks hitting that world at once. And you kind of get an overflow of them. But also, where you guys are once.
I have no idea what's behind him. Like, from my point of view, I want to say a lot of like Saltnik, but I doubt that.
You put it live into the game, you guys may be using it or pushing its limits in ways that we just didn't think about or had the capacity to test at the time. So this is some of the things that we're seeing and some of the things that we want to address based on your feedback, because we do hear you, right? As passionate players ourselves, we really understand.
As passionate players themselves, this statement, whenever I heard it on stream, I giggled. And the reason why is because if he was a passionate player himself, he would know the frustrations that we're all having at the moment. And the reason why it's bad to add. He's a passionate player because he's paid to play. Like, at the moment, he's here temporarily for the first couple minutes of the live stream, and then talking about the ability to test. Well, you see over on the test server with some of my leaks coming out, they talked about how it's actually more in the range of bots 99% of the time, it's bots and people kind of testing individually more than as a group. So whenever it comes down to testing, bots like to face you the entire time. Like they'll snapshot you across the map. They'll do all sorts of things because the bots are kind of bumped up a little bit over in the test server. They're a little bit more aggressive. They have really dumb coding. They're just dumb bots. That's all it is. Bots are bots. No one likes bots. In my opinion, the testing should be left publicly. Because if this was public, guess who would have had a hold of this tank inside the public test server? I would have. And you want to know what my reply to Wargaming would have been? No. This is not healthy for the game at all. It's another reason why we should have tanks introduced a week early on test accounts for content creators to review, test out a tank, go through the process of it, actually have some time inside of it to handle it and see how it performs. And finally, is it broken? They give feedback properly. Because you're testing it on the live server, to see it pop up, and then you can readjust it right before you release it to the game. That has not happened ever in the entire time that I can remember for the game. Then again, 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I was 15, so I never kept track of what I saw. I remember seeing the T28 HTC being played before, a couple of days before it actually got released into the game. We used to have a really, really cool process of the way tanks were released before they ever got put in, and those replays that showed off that tank before it ever actually released skyrocketed inside the replay system because you got to see the new tank coming out. You have no idea what the statistics are until a couple of days until they updated the website. Those were exciting days because you would see it. It's being tested. It's being put together. They have public test account for content creators. Let's bring that back. That's what I want back rather than this absolute bull testing that they're doing right now, because it's just garbage the way that everything's being tested, and then just, well, this looks pretty good. The game's over there, threw it in anyways, because that's the way it seems.
How important it is to maintain that balanced and enjoyable experience for everyone. And as I talked about, when the Vigilante was designed with specific intentions, more about the realism of it, I think we really need to focus a little bit more on the gameism of it. And that's what we want to take it back and do. Well, not take it back. That's bad choice of words. But
bad choice of words.
Right? It's evident that adjustments might be necessary to ensure that it aligns better with gameplay experience that you guys have come to expect. We've all come to expect.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to repeat what he just said.
And so it's words. But we're re-reviewing it, right? It's evident that adjustments might be necessary to ensure that it aligns better with gameplay experience that you
aligns better with gameplay experience. Well, you see, gameplay experience, let's say I'm driving around my tier 8, and within exactly 1.2 seconds of me just, hiding inside of a bush and getting spotted, I'm chilling out in my T92, and the next thing you know, I'm now back in the garage. Because I know the light tank can outspot me. The worst part about the Vigilant right now in the game is the fact that the Vigilant has the best-in-class concealment, the best-in-class view range. Some of you might disagree, but I'm telling you now, mathematically speaking, the Vigilant has the best concealment with a perfect mixture of view range, making it to where it can outspot the Rampanzer, making it to where it can outspot the T100LT, making it to where it can outspot, I want to say a Tyran, but I could be wrong on that one. Tyrans are ghosts. Those are ghosts. Or the outspot like a Kunampanza 105. One of the really scary stalkers of the battlefield. The Vigilant is just, as time goes on, I was chatting with a guy, and we were chatting about how that tank could potentially become, later in the future, one of the most influential tanks in the game, because its passive scouting capabilities is it excels compared to the Vanguard, which should be the comparison to this, because the Vanguard is considered one of the best in class, along with the LTG. LTG is a really good tier 7 light tank scout because it's got the best concealment in class. I could be wrong about that because there are a couple new tier 7 light tanks, but it's just that they released a tank with the best concealment in the class behind a paywall. That's my issue.
You guys have come to expect. We've all come to expect.
Also, the fact it can kill a tank in 3 seconds.
And so to that end, and KB, correct me if I'm right, we've already opened up a dedicated Discord thread for this.
We have.
So
there
that we
is
can
a
actually
Discord
get,
thread
yeah.
open for all feedback. And I'm just going to jump in and answer some of the testing questions that are popping up in chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've not been looking at the questions.
No,
yes, please.
it's fine. This is one that I've explained previously anyway. Supertest can only test so far.
Because you're playing against bots. That's the exact reason. And the fact that you have super testers who have been a part of the super tester community for over 10 years that have this mindset in the game that are just, they need to be thrown out. All right. They've been there too long and it's a complete waste of time to have them there. There's a lot of people within this community that just need to be outright thrown out of the window and told, hey, your point of view on this is kind of needs to go at this point because you're not benefiting it at all. I'm sorry for saying that. And, if I offended anybody, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. It needs to be shuffled around. It's kind of a really tight niche group. And whenever you have a group of 10 people inside that Discord that don't like new guys that come in, they try and get every single way to get them kicked out of that Discord. I've seen it happen time and time again off the Supertest Discord and out of the Supertest server itself.
Yeah, I likened it at the start of the season to a balloon. Sometimes you can push it up so far and you don't see the hole, in this case a bug, or an issue, or something that just doesn't feel right. Once it goes into the live version of the game, however, you can completely push that balloon out past its maximum and then you start seeing the issues appear. And sometimes that's how we find them and have to fix them afterwards. So this is where we're at.
Solution! It's exactly what I said a little bit ago. You release the tanks a week early for testers, for content creators to be able to play it, review it, and go over it. Sign an NDA to where we're not allowed to actually make content on the tank until the day of the release, but we're allowed to play the tank until the release, but we're not allowed to mention that, hey, that's us playing on that Watt-28935780801 account. Why did I do my area code? I did it because numbers go into the head, random ass numbers. But the public testing inside of the public lobbies, that's the greatest way to see how something reacts inside of certain situations. Like there are solutions to this and they're making it more complicated than it actually has to be.
Yeah, and to tally bum point, like volunteering for super tests. Yeah, we always need more super testers, especially on PS5s, right?
I'm also going to pull up the Twitch side of things so you guys can see the comments that were going on. Never mind, I was looking over and it'd take a little bit longer to get set up properly.
That's how we find them and have to fix them afterwards. So this is where we're at.
Yeah, and to tally bum point, like volunteering for super tests. Yeah, we always need more super testers, especially on PS5s, right? If there's a way that
you always need more super testers, yet every single time that I put in an application, it gets ignored and denied. Every single time. The last 3 times you guys have put out a public announcement that you're looking for 2 super testers, I've applied, I've been denied. So my point inside that entire system is that I'm not even going to get involved in it. I'm just going to take leaks whenever they hit me, and that's the way I'm going to go about it. However, if you guys want to offer me a position inside the super test, reach out to me over in Discord. I'm inside the public Discord. I'd be super happy to join and actually help you test these before they're released. I'll sign an NDA, whatever you need me to do. But whenever it comes down to it, my channel, my content, I will do my content how I want to. I have a First Amendment right to do it how I want to. And whatever your NDA says, depending on what it says, I might not sign it. And I might completely avoid the super test. But I'll keep it to myself from that server and never expose it. Because if I'm in the super test, I'm not going to share the information out there. But if I'm not in the super test and stuff gets leaked to me, guess what I'm going to do?
Our community managers can get you that information on how to actually get more people into super test. And you guys are keen on it. I would love to have all you there. Right. First of all, you get a sneak peek on everything, and second of all, you get to be helpful in determining the values of the vehicles that they're playing in game, and you also get to see some free maps at a time too. So it's all good stuff.
You get to see some like partially rendered maps; they're not fully complete.
So I absolutely encourage you to get super test. But back to what we're going to. So we've opened up the Discord thread. Get your suggestions, ideas, and be improved. I've already put a strike team together, and we've been discussing and already making doing some test tuning and things for improvement on things based on feedback a lot that you guys have already given, right? So if you haven't joined that conversation yet, we encourage you, because that input will guide us as to the eventual potential changes. So really, that's kind of all I wanted to say. I'm not going to talk about like which changes we're making. We're looking at, but that's the angle and story what we're looking at with things. And again, when we build things, sometimes how we lean it historical versus not versus it's an actual game where we're all running around and playing is different.
So his reply at that last little part is that this is a game that we're all running around and playing. They're not looking at this as like any other way where people are wanting to be competitive, or to them it's a game. It's a game that people play. That's the way I interpreted that last little bit. Because, I mean, based upon how everything's been going the past couple of months, how else are you going to be interpreting it?
One thing I will speak to, and that is limiting of different types of vehicles when we get these things out. We can do that with our current code and systems in the game. We can do that by class of tank, like lights versus heavies versus artillery versus that kind of teams. But we can't do it by specific tank type.
He says this, yet they have a system that makes it to where if an AVRE is on one team, it has to be on the other team.
Like I can't, say all Hetzers get priority for tank games. I can't do that. I can't limit it or beef it right way. It is tech and that I talked to the engineers about and something that we can get into, so we can have these dials to dial things up and down. But also, if we do that, that also means that there will be waiting time. All of you that bought the new tanks and are keen on using them.
Okay, and here's the best part about waiting time. I would rather wait 2 minutes to get into a game that's full of players than wait 5 seconds and get into a game that has 7 bots or 5 bots. I'd rather have a full lobby than not a full lobby whenever it comes down to it. I'm someone who doesn't mind a little bit of wait time. I played Skyrim, for crying out loud, underneath my underneath my monitor at the moment. I'm looking for a spot to hang this one up because I have my Grand Theft Auto map in the other side of the room. I've got my little collector's edition that's from 2011 of my Skyrim map. So clearly, I've been playing games for a long time. And to me, I couldn't care less if I had to sit down and wait, because I used to watch a shield spin in circles for 3 minutes like, oh, when did it get a load?
If we dial that back so that there's a little bit of an imbalance at beginning, then that means that you'll be waiting for longer queue times to get in, right? So there's always a give and take to these kind of things. So we have to think it all the way through. And just wanted to end up saying thank you all for your support. Thank you all for showing up today. This is kind of a surprise, hopefully, to you guys that I be here, but I thought it was super important that I get to speak to you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that the chat, even while frustrated, that they are very happy that you've come out and spoke to them today. Because
well, cool.
It doesn't always happen, and it is nice to have that little bit of transparency and to know that we are looking at making changes to see how we can fine-tune the tank.
Absolutely. I mean, think about World War II. They were making vehicles all the time and then finding out what didn't work and then flipping it around and making a new change, right? No plan survives contact with the enemy. No good tank survives. Yeah. So there you go. As I said, I put next steps. So I got to go jump into some other meetings.
And that's pretty much about it on basically the Q&A from the devs with a little bit of damage control, because they're coming out and using some really specific keywords and try and go after a couple of things. But one of the posts over on Discord that I even upvoted myself a couple of hours ago whenever I saw this was first posted was, let's start a petition to ban the T-492 from World War II. It's got 170 essentially upvotes if we compare this to like what Reddit is and everything else. 170, and I mean, if we scroll down, this is going on for a long time, and believe me, I'm not going to read over any of these comments. I'm going to go through this list at a different time and probably bring it up in a different video on what some people are talking about. But essentially, it's toxic. People are complaining. I mean, look, we're still going now that we're at the very bottom. Cryptic Theorist, super cool to see you here, seeing you over on YouTube as well. Thank you for popping on your comments. Lord Voldemort, a couple other things. Don't ever mention his name. I'm on their Discord and I said it. I think I'm gonna get banned. But super testing. Yeah, I would love to get into super testing. I would love to sit down and try and help out the World of Tanks community, the World of Tanks dev team, and everything else. But the problem is that the way it's structured and the people that are behind it, I do not support anymore. Max Chaos, in my eyes, is. I'm not going to say it, but my opinion of that person is not very high. There's a lot of people within that dev team that I do not have very high opinions of at the moment. Max Chaos being very, very high on that list, because he's also one of the people that supported some BS back in the day and pushed a lot of things on competitions and competitive leagues, trying to make them forced to deal with their own little things. If you don't comply, then you are not a part of it and we don't recognize you. So that's pretty much it for today. They're doing a little bit of damage control, and honestly, I don't give two that the tank was paid for. Even if I paid for it myself, nerf it. The Panzerjäger, I paid for the Panzerjäger whenever I first got my own Panzerjäger. If they want to nerf that, I paid for it, and guess what? You have my permission to nerf that tank. Start polls in the game. Ask your player base. Ask, hey, do you guys care if we nerf premium tanks? And then get an actual pull-up in the website. Get an actual pull-up inside the game. For instance, I load inside here, and one of the first things that I see pop up is like, oh, reminder about your free war chest for the day, for your offers. Take your free one, which you get my next one in 6 hours and 2 minutes. So they have a way to tell us that they're doing things. It's very simple, wargaming. There's a couple things that you can do to make people know what's going on within the community and how to put in your votes and everything else. Because I will vote yes in that petition to nerf premium tanks. Because there needs to be a giant rebalance within the game. And it's getting extremely bad, along with the perk systems and a couple of other things that also need to be looked at in terms of rebalancing. Anyways, anybody, thank you for jumping in, spending the time with me in this little fiasco again of rambling and everything else. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for jumping in. See you later.